When I was 12, my family moved to a rural area in Oregon, miles from the nearest town. We lived on a large piece of land surrounded by dense pine forest. It was peaceful, quiet, and completely isolating. The house itself was built in the 1940s. It had the old house starter pack with things like creaky floors, a creepy attic, and a detached rundown shed that sat about 30 feet from the back door. The shed was packed with old tools and junk from the previous owner. My dad always meant to clean it out, but he never did. For the most part, we stayed away from it. I remember the first time I noticed something strange. It was a weeknight, close to midnight. I was up reading with the flashlight under the covers when I heard our dog, Max, barking uncontrollably. Max was a golden retriever, super friendly but alert. When he barked like that, it meant something was wrong. I crept out of bed and peeked out the window. He was facing the shed, barking into the darkness. The motion sensor light by the back door was on, casting long shadows across the lawn. I couldn't see anyone, but Max wouldn't stop. I didn't go out there, I just watched for a bit until he calmed down, then I walked away. The next morning, we found deep boot prints in the dirt between the house and the shed. My dad dismissed it, saying it was probably a neighbor or a drifter passing through, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Over the next few weeks, Max barked at that shed multiple times. Every time, we'd look outside and find nothing, but the footprints would be back, and they always led to the shed, never away from it. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps on the gravel outside my window. I froze. The footsteps stopped, then resumed, moving toward the shed. I peeked through the blinds, and the light by the back door flicked on, and for just a second, I saw him. A tall man standing beside the shed door. He was wearing what looked like a dirty gray coat. His face was obscured by shadows, and then the light went out. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away from the window. I woke my parents. My dad grabbed his rifle and went outside, but the man was gone. The footprints were fresh though, right up to the shed. This time, my dad decided to check inside. He unlocked the padlock and pulled the doors open, but all there was were just rusty tools and old tarps. He added a new lock and reinforced the doors. For a while, things were quiet. Then, a month later, Max went missing. We searched everywhere, through the woods, up and down the road, even asked neighbors. He was gone. I was completely heartbroken. I held out hope that he'd return and he just got lost in the woods. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I kept thinking about the shed and Max, about the man I'd seen. Around 3 a.m., I heard the back door creak. I got out of bed and tiptoed into the hallway. My dad was already up, holding his rifle. We moved to the back door, just in time to see the motion light flicker on. There, standing by the shed, was the man again, only this time, he was holding something. In one hand, a knife, in the other, Max's collar. When I saw this, I felt like my life was half sucked out of my body, like this horrible weightlessness in which I almost felt like I was gonna fall down. My dad shouted and raised the rifle, but the man turned and ran into the woods. We called the police, and they searched the area but found no trace of him. What they did find inside the shed made me sick. The floor had been cleared. In the dirt, someone had carved symbols, crude, disturbing images. In the corner was a pile of bones, animal bones, hopefully. It got worse. Behind a false panel in the shed wall, the officers found a backpack filled with items that weren't ours. Wallets, watches, and a few pieces of worn clothing. Things that must have belonged to someone. Multiple someones. The strangest thing was a notebook. Pages and pages of strange symbols, incoherent rambling and jagged handwriting, and crude drawings of houses, families, and eyes. I believe that this was some kind of message to us, saying he was watching us like he's watched other families. The police took all the items that were found. That night, while packing to leave, I looked out my window one last time to the shed. The police tape fluttered in the breeze, and all was quiet, but just beyond it, maybe 10 feet into the tree line, I saw a person's face, but the moment I blinked, it was gone. I screamed my dad's name in a desperate panic, yelling, "He's back!" My dad stormed into the room and looked out the window asking where he was. I pointed straight at the shed and saw he was to the left, right by the woods. He ran to grab his rifle again, and this time he ran outside and screamed like a maniac while firing around. You can't imagine the anger and frustration of having to be chased out of your own home by a crazy, dangerous person who likely killed your dog. My dad was letting his frustration out in that moment. I know my dad wanted to kill that man. We moved out days later to a much less remote part of Oregon.